Hello everyone, I'm back and today we're building a glamping tent. And what I mean by that is basically a tent which has a few more home comforts, so a little bit more luxurious than perhaps your conventional traditional tent. So in this tent you can actually have a real bed instead of just a sleeping bag. It would be made from a material which would be a lot stronger and thicker. So it would just you'd feel less like you're in a tent. I mean, I've never been in one myself, so I can't say for sure, but I imagine you don't feel as though you're in a tent as much and more more like in a room, Obviously it's still kind of tent shape, but it would just be, like I say, more comfortable and you wouldn't feel as though you're right outside, But and there's kind of a few different shapes and styles of these tents. And I kind of at the start sort of umming and ahhing about how we were going to do this. I knew I really wanted to make one of these because I always feel like Granite Falls, it just needs a bit more variety. I know I've said this before, but when you go to a nice woodland escape, you don't always want to stay in a log cabin, So I thought this would be a fun one to have because basically, I mean, in The Sims, it means we have a tent that you can actually go inside, which I thought was pretty cool. But so I when I first started playing around with how we were going to do this, I did start by thinking we might just do an A-frame, so just kind of the traditional shape you might think of when you think of a tent, so just a triangle, if you know what I mean, which would be obviously just roof pieces going alongside each other, if that makes sense, what we have now but without the half wall. So, and that was kind of I don't know, obviously that gives proper tent vibes. But the only downside with doing that is you don't get as much width in the space you can use or where your Sims can use, because obviously the height of the roof, they can only walk in a certain height of roof, if that makes sense. So I actually opted for doing it like this, where I used half walls and then I did the trick of building a room and lowering it to match the height of the half walls and then moving the roof across, if that makes sense, to just give it a bit more height on the side so that your Sims can use more width of the tent. And it's a shape that I've seen, this is a style that I have seen, so I thought it kind of worked because it also was a little bit more functional. Now the only downside to doing this is you'll see the back of the tent, I've made it that kind of, it's not a gable end, if that makes sense. So it kind of closes off as if it was a tent. So tent fabric, if you see what I mean. Which means that obviously that roof piece is you can't go in, if that makes sense. It's not open. Obviously you'll see at the front, it's open and the space is open. There's no roof walls, I want to call them. Whereas, that back piece that I've used is completely, obviously you can't use it, you can't go in it. So you'll see that basically half of the tent, the back end of the tent is, it's not functional. But I felt this was the best shape to do to still obviously look like a tent, or I hope you guys think it looks like a tent, but also obviously, because I say, we've used the half walls, it means that you get the extra width and things, but it does mean if you use this style of roof piece at the end, it is just a empty block. You know what I mean? So so it's not as big long ways, but I felt it's just kind of, you don't really notice in terms of when you're playing, because of course you don't need that space. I mean, you do notice it's there because it's just this block if you are playing with the roof off. And that's actually another benefit of doing what we've done. So having the half walls, it means that you can play with like the walls down, and you can still, so you can be inside the tent without the roof being up. So if we just did the A-line, like I said, it would have been like, you'd have got rid of the roof, if that makes sense. You'd just be playing, it'd be like no walls at all. Whereas at least you kind of have this like map out of where the walls are of the tent. I'm probably just like waffling at this point. Basically, we made a tent. And I also really wanted to use those like tarp, like swifty pieces to create that like, well, like it looks like the opening of a tent. And the best way to do that was to kind of use, there's many different roof pieces in this tent, and I kind of used a few different ones to fill in the holes around that on the front face of the tent, so that like, yeah, there's like fabric all around, or like it looks like there's fabric all around, and then, but it is open inside. So yeah, so it's a little bit funky, but it was really fun, and I really feel like, I hope that it gives the like vibes, you know? You'll notice as well, I used like the little debug items from the Growing Together pack, which are supposed to be for like boats, you know, to like moor up boats. But I felt they were really good to look like. So I put some around the sort of wooden base to look like that's kind of like where the tent is like tied to the base around the edge. And then I also used the ones which obviously to have the ropes kind of sticking out as like guy ropes. I think that's what they're called, which are kind of to give the impression of the ropes that are like holding the tent up, or like kind of holding the tent like taut so that it stays up. And I do actually put some like little debug sticks into the ropes to look like pegs, or like to, you know, to be like sticking in the ground, that's like holding the ropes in the ground, which I also thought was just like a cute little addition. It's just like little things to just try and make it seem more realistic and how maybe it would look in real life. So yeah, a few funny like ways around doing it. But yeah, so it's completely functional. You can go inside, which I think is great, because obviously we already have like tents in The Sims, but they're just tents that your Sims go in, like we can't go in. So I thought it was fun to have like a tent that we can also go inside. And it's not like super luxurious. I know some of them are like, in real life can be like super, super fancy. But yeah, this one is just like, I don't know, like it's nice obviously. And I tried to put as much in there to make it like, you know, like there'll be a sofa in there and things like that. And a mirror to be a bit more realistic, and things that your Sim would use while in the tent. But like I haven't put like an oven or like anything that seemed a bit like, okay, that wouldn't be in there. I know some maybe have like, I don't know, like some type of oven-y thing, I don't know, but I just thought like the cooking would all be outside. I do put a mini fridge, but I felt like all the cooking should be outside just for safety reasons, really. But yeah, so yeah, it's kind of got a bit of a boho-y feel to it, if I'm honest, which I feel like these tend to be. Kind of, I guess, like, yeah, I don't know, it's a bit of a, because it's a bit of a like funky kind of place to stay, you know? Because you kind of, it's like you want to go camping, but you want to feel just a little bit more comfortable. You don't want to be just in a little tent in a sleeping bag and like cold, you know? You want a bit more luxury, but you want to feel like you're having the camping experience, which, yeah, I feel like that's what this does. And you'll see I made this little wooden kind of, I don't know, it's like a little cabin-y thing, which is where the bathroom will be. And I knew when I started building this that I wanted some kind of outdoor bath, because that's something else that I feel like they always have, some kind of outdoor hot tubby bath type thing. And I feel like all the hot tubs, in The Sims are very chunky, and I don't know, they're just, or very modern. I know we have that one that we got for free with the like roof and stuff, but that's like too extra for this. But yeah, I just wanted something quite simple. So I did opt for the kind of wooden bath. I think it's from Snowy Escape, which I don't know, I feel like it kind of works with the kind of rusticy, natural, you know, we're out in nature, so it should kind of be that kind of vibe, which obviously none of the hot tubs really are. So yeah, I felt like this was quite cool and put it up on like a little foundation, which I know the lot I've put it on, I mean, at the moment that bath, like if you're in the bath, then people can probably see you from the like lodge. You can see in the distance there's like a lodge. It's not like totally private. I could have put like a kind of privacy screen, but I quite like the idea of them being able to just like look out because there's the water behind and just like look over the landscape. But so I just left it like that. And maybe they're going in swimming costumes anyway, so it's not like crazy because like there is a shower, like a normal shower in the like bathroom cabin. So that's probably where you'd actually like have your shower. so yeah. And I also added in these lights, which I mean, these are such a great debug item. Like I'm so glad that we have these lights from the Cottage Living Pack, I think, because you can just put them anywhere, like between buildings, between trees, and they can just make it so like cozy. And yeah, I just feel like this would be a nice place to go, quite romantic, nice little getaway for two, and yeah, just overall nice vibes really. And I did kind of want to make this tent a little bit higher off the ground. You'll see it's kind of like, you can just about see that it's on wooden legs because obviously it's like quite low to the ground. But I don't know if you've ever built doing the roof. Obviously like this roof isn't actually like stuck to the half walls because that's like, it's just not how it works. They're like technically like attached to another room that doesn't exist anymore because I've deleted it. But anyway, if you edit anything, walls, or like if I were to move the foundations up and down, the roof would just go. And and I was like, do you know what? It's fine as it is because otherwise we're gonna have to redo the whole roof again, which would be fine. But I thought just for the sake of rising, like going up a level, it'll be fine. This keeps it lower to the ground, you know? But yeah. So you'll see on the inside now, and you'll see what I mean, how you kind of get more width. And obviously at the moment the things are pushed right up against the side, but they do need to come out a little bit. I was just kind of pushing my luck, wasn't I, really putting it on the sides? And then I was like, wait, no, they're not going to go on that sofa, are they? But yeah, so I just kind of put those out, place and mark them to kind of know what I could fit in there. But yeah, you'll notice that. So I'm pulling it out now, and you'll notice that I've put these kind of, they're just like a wall cabinet, so like would normally be for the kitchen. And I put them around the edge just to kind of mark out where you can actually like play to. So as in, that's kind of the limit, if that makes sense. And I don't know, I felt like I didn't want to just have an empty space, you see. So for example, you can see where the fridge is. The cabinet behind the fridge is a space that Sim can't get to. So I would have just had to leave it empty. But I felt like it would be good to put these kind of like cabinets all around the edge and on the other side, because I feel like it'd be quite good storage. I know that this kitchen is a little bit strange, especially obviously seeing it like this, because obviously you can't see where the roof is. But yeah, that's obviously quite clunky. But yeah, like I say, I wanted to have something there rather than just like a void, you know? So yeah, but I felt like as well, it did look like quite a lot of good storage. And that actually, yeah, maybe that's where you keep everything. Because I mean, there's not much storage in there. I mean, not that you would need much storage, but just for the sake of like storing tent things, like maybe like change of bedding, stuff like that, blankets, that, yeah, I thought that would be a good way to do it. And you will see as well what I mean about having that kind of like void where the back piece of the roof is for the tent, and how that's just kind of there. You can't really use it. So that was kind of like the main downside of the way I did this tent, but I think it looks more interesting from the outside than if we'd have just done an A-frame tent. So yeah, so that was the compromise that we had to make. And then you'll see I'm just doing the little bathroom, quite simple. Obviously it's like, outside almost, because you're just walking from the outside. So kind of like, yeah, like quite simple, because it wouldn't be like nicely tiled or anything. Because I just feel like it might get a bit ruined. But anyway, there we are. I hope you enjoyed that one. I will leave you with some screenshots and see you in the next one. Bye.